Hello and welcome to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on the show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. This podcast is sponsored by SyncBack Pro, the professional photographer's tool to keep your images safe. How safe are your photographs? Or to put it this way, how would you feel if you permanently lost some or even all of them? The fact is, there are very real risks in storing your digital images on a hard drive, even if they're backed up to an external device. There's ransomware, hardware failure, file corruption, virus infection, and even accidental deletion or destruction. SyncBack Pro makes this problem go away permanently. SyncBack Pro is the professional photographer's tool to back up photographs, images, documents, and data files. Once set up, it keeps your files safe, quietly and reliably in the background. So if problems occur or disaster strikes, you'll have nothing to worry about. Your photographs will be safe. Which is why it's also the backup solution that I use myself for my own photographs. Take advantage of an exclusive 25% discount today by going to www.backup.sg. The software will never expire, meaning your photographs are safe forever. That's www.backup.sg. Give your photographs the protection they deserve. And now, on with the show. Lee Pengelly loaded his first roll of Fuji Velvia into his camera in the early 90s. And from that day on, he got sucked into the world of photography. By 1998, and after some initial sales, Lee gave up his day job and went pro. Since the late 90s, Lee's work has been regularly published in magazines, books, calendars and cards. He's also produced bespoke imagery for businesses and advertising agents. In 2007, Lee started running his own photography workshops in the UK, later leading workshops for other companies in Slovakia, Norway, Iceland and Croatia. Lee gave up professional photography in 2016. This allowed him to return to photography as a form of relaxation, something he was missing when doing it professionally. Since then, he's reignited his passion for stunning landscapes, more intimate scenes and chasing lone trees. We discuss how he made the decisions both to start and then stop his photography business, how he almost lost his bag on an iceberg, and the vagaries of NFT sales, along with lots more. I hope you enjoy the show. G'day Lee, welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
I'm good. Yeah.
That's the way. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me today. Why don't you tell people who you are and what you do?
Okay. I'm Lee Pengelly. I'm a UK photographer, landscape mainly, but I do all kinds of photography as well. I picked up a camera back in 1992. That's when I started photography. And by 98, I'd gone pro full-time, completely immersed in it. I loved it and started making a living out of it. Yep. Basically, and I concentrate now on landscape, but back then I was doing all kinds of photography, everything from fashion shoots and like hotel interiors and all kinds of stuff.
But what makes the money?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, some of the stuff I'd photograph, you wouldn't believe it. It's like you say, you had to make a living, and that's what I was doing. But landscape is my passion, landscape and travel. So that's, I've been full-time as a photographer up until about 2016. And then life events and stuff, I had to basically give it up as a full-time living and just have it as a paying hobby, basically. But to be honest, it's freed me up and I've burnt out. I've completely lost the plot on it and come back to it. And now it's my real passion and I love to get out when I can.
Cool. What is it that motivated you to start getting into landscapes in particular?
Right from the start, really, when I started shooting, I always loved being outdoors and it was a natural thing to photograph the landscape. I live in Devon, which is right down in the southwest of the UK.
Yep.
And I'm surrounded by coastal scenes and Dartmoor National Park. So it's all on the doorstep. So it was quite a natural subject to start with. And I do the solitude as well. I go out with the camera and I get completely immersed in it and I can sit there for hours and just waiting for the light and stuff. So that's it was a natural subject for me.
Sure. I guess I'm interested in understanding from most of the people that I talk to the process that they've gone through in terms of when they started photography, a lot of people start recording things that they're seeing around them, and it doesn't turn into art until later. Was that the way that it worked for you, or has it always been an artistic expression?
Yeah, to be honest, it was when I started out, I got into the professional side of things quite early.
Yeah, right.
So I was constrained to shoot stuff that would sell. So it wasn't always shooting stuff because it was a nice scene, or I had to make every shot count basically. And that is restricting over time. You get to a point and you think, why am I actually shooting this? I've got to get out of this kind of. So when in 2016, when I had to go back and get a real job, it basically I got to the point then where I go out and I just shoot for the sake of it. And it was so liberating. And now I'll go out and I'll shoot stuff and I don't have to think about whether it can make a cover, whether there's enough space for titles and all that sort of thing. You can just shoot the picture because it looks nice.
Yeah, okay. Talk to me a bit about that period, the decision that you mentioned before about deciding to walk away from it a bit, and then how you came back to it.
Yeah, basically, I was going through a bit of a period in my life that things weren't working out very well. It's like relationships and stuff. And at the time, the lead up finishing as a full-time photographer, I was running workshops. I was shooting. I was just trying to earn a living, basically. It's getting harder and harder. So the financial constraints were. It was just. I always said to myself, if it ever felt like a job, I would step away from it. And that if I got to that point, it's really hard to step away, but I just needed to do it. But at the time, I thought, am I making a mistake? And I did go away from it for a couple of years. I just couldn't pick up the camera and go out. Just wasn't interested. I even sold all my gear at one point. Instantly regretted it. But I had to get a proper job and got back into the swing of like normal life. Stopped traveling so much. I was traveling loads with the photography, and I was away for sort of 6 months of the year. And I was just right back to point zero. I reinvested in some gear and just started going out, and with no ulterior motive, just to go out and enjoy the landscape again. And it took a few months to get back into the swing of using the camera again and getting my eye in. But it was great. It was almost like a revelation that I hadn't had this before.
Yeah. I guess that change from where it is a job, and as you said, you're not necessarily always shooting things that you want to shoot. A lot of people that use it as a hobby use it as a way of relaxing, as opposed to something that they even want to consider making a career out of. Was that kind of where you got to now, is that it's okay, I don't care whether or not I make money out of it, it's just something that I do on the side? And
it is nice to make some money out of it. I can sort of spend it on gear or spend it on other stuff, or reinvest it into something. I like buying other stuff as well, but it's the lack of pressure now. That's the main thing. I don't have to make every shot count. I still supply like stock agencies, and that's what I've done that pretty much throughout my career. And I still do that because I think they either sit on a hard drive and they never get seen, or you can put them out there, and if you make a bit of money, then it's all good.
Yeah, fair enough. So comparing now to where you were, are you just going out and doing spontaneous trips and spontaneous shoots, or are you doing planning the same kind of level of planning that you were doing before, or have you carried stuff over from when you were doing it professionally to what you're doing now?
It's basically, I still do the occasional commercial job for people that I used to work for, so that I do that now and then. But now it's more, it's like this. I've been out this morning. I've recently got into infrared. It's that season now. All the trees are out in leaf, and it's a nice day here for a change. So I thought I'll just go out, and no ulterior motive. I just went out and just to shoot some stuff. So it's nice, and I travel with my partner now. We've been to like city breaks and stuff. We've done Venice and Prague and all these places. And I always take the camera, and it's just nice for me. It's a way to relax.
Yeah.
It's completely different from what I'm doing now for a living, and it's just a nice way to get out and relax.
Is that how you're staying motivated, just keeping it as that relaxation, and that's basically all that you ever see it being?
Yeah, I'd like to. There's always a little notion, I did regret giving it up as a living, but at the
Interesting.
time it just wasn't. It wasn't working. I would love to travel the world and make a living from it, and do that all the time. But I'm realistic. I've got bills to pay, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
and like, so this lack of pressure now, it makes me realize: do I really want to go back to scraping a living? Photography as a living is a feast and famine existence. One month you can be up, and the next minute everything seems to be crashing down to the floor again.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't
definitely.
miss that. I do miss obviously the travel side of things, the workshops that I used to do, and
Yeah,
it would be nice. It would be nice to eventually, maybe when I retire, I can use it as a secondary income when
yeah.
all the pensions have disappeared.
Fair enough. Well, how has that changed for you, and the change in pressure around it being more of a hobby as opposed to being a career? Has that changed how you're expressing yourself in your photography much?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Because now, like I said, I haven't got the constraints of when I was doing it professionally. It was I go out and shoot like I did this morning. I went out, shot a couple of trees this morning,
Yep.
but before I would be thinking I need to have space up here for a cover. I need, I can't have anything with grass in the bottom because if there's a barcode on the magazine cover or something,
Yeah, the
you
grass will
can't
mess
see
that
it.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And all these things were going through my head. Whereas now I just go out for, oh, wow, that looks nice. I can frame it how I want to frame it. And there's no kind of hang ups on what I'm doing, basically.
Yeah, cool. So it sounds like you mentioned the infrared. Sounds like you've now started to get into a bit of experimentation around different ways of seeing the world. Talk to us about how you got into the infrared side of things, and what that entails. A lot of people, I haven't spoken to a lot of people that do infrared, and one or
Yeah.
two, but we haven't really spoken on the podcast before about the things that you've got to do. You've got to either use filters, which can be an absolute pain in the backside, or
Yeah.
you've got to convert a camera. You've actually got to dedicate a body to it. Is that the route
Yeah.
you've taken, and what have you
Yes.
actually had to do?
Yeah, I met up with, I'm quite good friends with Neil Burnell, and we met up last year, went out for a shoot, and he was using his infrared camera, which had been converted to like full spectrum, and seeing what he was doing, and actually seeing the results on the back of the camera.
Mm.
Because normally with infrared, if you're shooting with like a DSLR, for instance, you can't see it, you can't see
Yes.
what it looks like. It's all done in sort of post process,
Mm.
whereas a full spectrum camera, you can actually see on your live view what it looks like,
Yeah,
basically. So
right.
it's a revelation. And I thought, wow, this looks great. And I've been a photographer for over 30 years now. I've
Mm-hmm.
tried all different kinds of mediums. Like I started out on film. I've used all different formats, but I've never done infrared.
Mm.
And so I thought, wow, this is great. It's just, you can be more artistic, I think, with it, and
Mm.
it frees you up a bit because you create pictures that you wouldn't normally see. So instantly it becomes more attractive. So yeah, I basically got one of my Sony cameras converted earlier this year. Took
Yeah.
ages to get it back from the people that were converting it. And of course, I'd missed the first season basically. But
Yeah.
now it's kicking off now. I'm out with it all the time.
Yeah. Cool. I guess infrared is a particular style, but it's not the only style that you're actually doing at the moment. How would you describe your style overall, infrared aside? How would you
Um,
describe your style, and how has that style developed from where you started to where you are now?
For me, it's always been about light. That's the most important thing with photography. I'm not a big fan of post process, and I don't like sitting in front of the computer and spending hours and hours on like
Sure.
processing images. I'd rather get it right in camera. I've always used filters, like physical filters, and I probably always will. I just, like I say, it gets the image in here onto the sensor as you want to see it, basically. So I think over the years, I've loved going out at dawn and dusk. So the light is at its best,
Yep.
and it's hard because people say, oh, when I used to lead the workshops, they would say, oh, how do you compose the picture? And it's hard to actually teach that because everybody sees things differently.
Yeah.
I like big foregrounds. I like all kinds of stuff, but it's the light that's important, and obviously the framing. And it's very hard to teach that to people because that's the hardest bit to teach. Everybody's got their own vision of how they see things. But I guess over time now, I would say, I look back at some of my work from my earlier years, and I think, Christ, it's awful.
Nobody likes what they used to do.
I know I've got a few pictures that I look back and I think, yeah, that was it. But a lot of the stuff I produce, I'm not really happy with it now. It's definitely a process, I think, as you get older and the way the subjects change. It's a process.
You mentioned trees. Did you shoot a lot of trees early on, or is that?
Yes. Yeah. My first successful image was a tree. That kind of triggered me to actually take it up as a living. I live quite close to Dartmoor, and there's loads of little small hawthorn trees up on Dartmoor, and they're really picturesque. And one of those I shot way back in the 90s was my first sale. Yeah, that kind of triggered me on to take it up as a living. But I just love, especially solitary trees. I like trees on their own. I just think they're very photogenic, and I like the whole concept of a tree and how it's rooted and what it's seen and it's like in its lifetime, and the fact that a lot of trees outlive us. And
we've got a tree up the coast from here, and it's one of the. It's not tallest, but it's one of the largest trees circumference wise. It's 10, 12 meters across, I should say. And they reckon that it was probably a sapling in the 1770s when the first fleet was coming out to Australia.
Blimey.
And it's just just mind-blowing that you can go and stand under a tree that was being grown that long, almost 300 years. Yeah.
We've got a lot of oak trees here, and they're quite historic. They're a couple of 100 years old, some of them, and there's ones that I've shot in the past and that have been chopped down to make way for roads or for housing and all that sort of thing. So this is why I like photography, because you can record stuff and it's there. And you can look back on stuff and think that's not there anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, there are photographers that do get into that sort of thing. But I think if you're doing those landscapes and cityscapes, but also some of the more banal day-to-day street scenes and so forth, you look back, even now, I look back at some of mum and dad's photos from the 60s and 70s, and things have changed a lot, but you can also see where things have remained the same. And I think it's fascinating to look back through those sort of historic photos. And a lot of people, I don't think, will recognise that they're doing that recording now for 30, 40, 50, 100 years later.
Yeah, it's great. This is the whole thing, like with NFTs, the fact that you're minting stuff and it's going on this blockchain and basically outlive you. People could still be seeing these pictures in 100 years' time.
If we don't blow ourselves up beforehand.
Yeah, true.
You mentioned the fact that you don't like to do a lot of editing. Is that because you want to reflect almost exactly what you're seeing and what the camera's recording? Or is it you just don't like editing?
Yeah, pretty much. I like to get it right in camera with physical filters, actually, which affect the light rather than color in it, Get it as right as I can. And then in post-process, I do very little. It's curves, levels, a little bit. I do a bit of blending now and then if I take a couple of shots and blend them together.
Sure.
But generally, I wouldn't spend more than a couple of hours on a picture if it needed it. But it's all done in camera, basically.
What do you define success in your photography as now? Obviously, professionally, it's a bit different to the way that you look at your photography now. What does success look like for Lee?
Success for me now is just I get a great pleasure from going out and actually looking for that shot, finding the right image, And when I've captured it, for me, that's success. It makes me happy. And that's the most important thing. You can't go for it and always be trying to please others, trying to gain likes and all the rest of it. We're all like involved in social media and trying to get our work seen. It's just one of those things. And I think ultimately it's that feeling of going out and finding the shot. That's the bit that, and if you get it and it works, to me, that's the most important success out of it all.
Yeah, fantastic. In terms of work-life balance, or I shouldn't say work-life, but photography life and the rest of life balance, how do you fit photography in around family and work now?
Yeah, that's the difficult bit. Obviously, with this puppy as well lately, I've taken him out a few times, and it's just, oh my god.
Yeah, dogs and photography don't miss.
No.
I honestly don't know how Nigel Danson does it.
No, God knows. It's like it's crazy. But yeah, I work. I'm back in the. I've actually just set up my own business. My background has been the construction industry, so
yeah, right.
I fit kitchens and bathrooms, and I do like maintenance work and stuff like that. So I've recently only just started up my own business again, after working for other people for a few years. So fitting in the photography is way back at the moment. So I get out when I can.
Yeah.
But that in a way, that's good, because when I do get out, it's a nice release. It relaxes me. It's a good pastime, you know?
Yeah, definitely. How do you see photography fitting into your life in the future? Where do you see, as you said, in retirement, maybe it becomes something more, or are you happy with where it is now?
I'm happy with the balance. So I say that it would be nice to do a bit more. I'd like to travel more. So I think when it gets to the point of retirement, I'd like to combine the two, sort of travel and photography.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether I will actually go back to it as a full-time career. If something amazing happened, then maybe, but it's not in the forefront of my mind anymore. It's just, I just want to enjoy what I'm doing, which at the moment I am. So I'm happy.
Yeah. Oh, well, happiness is the best place to be, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
When you were shooting around the world, what locations were you getting to, and what's still on the bucket list? You mentioned wanting to travel more. Where would be the first place you went?
There's my bucket list for locations is huge. I'd love to go to Australia, New Zealand, Africa, parts of Africa, all over the place. Cambodia is another place. There's loads of places. I used to travel with the workshops. I used to go to Iceland, Norway, Slovakia, all these mainly sort of European countries.
Yeah.
Croatia was another one. Iceland, I've been 13 times to Iceland.
Wow.
Over the years, mainly Northern Lights trip. We go out there for about 2 weeks at a time, running like back-to-back workshops, and I was nocturnal. I was like sleeping during the day and out during the night in pitch black and minus 30 temperatures, shooting Northern Lights. But it was great. I've experienced places and experienced things that I wouldn't have experienced if I wasn't a photographer. And I've got the pictures to look back on, and I can instantly be transported back to those times.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful part about travel photography, is you can just be back there and really.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the furthest you've travelled to get a shot?
Outside of where I live, you mean? Or?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
It could be around the UK somewhere.
Yeah, I've done a few trips in the UK where I've just packed up a van and gone off and further up the country, up to the Lake District and places like that, which is quite away from where I live. Slovakia was a lot of walking to get to the locations. We'd go up into the mountains and stay in like mountain cabins, and that was pretty good. We'd go up there in the winter months and freezing cold, pitch black at night, but it was a real sort of adventure.
Do you think where you live now is influencing how you shoot? It obviously influences what you shoot, but does it influence how you shoot, do you think? I'll come first. And
yeah, I've lived here. I haven't really moved around in the UK. I've always lived where I live now in this part of the world, so I'm very familiar with it. My favourite place is actually the coast. I love shooting on the coast, and where we live now. We're in the South Hams of Devon, which is right down on the coast. So I'm literally about 20 minutes away from beaches and nice. Really lovely sort of scenic stretches of coastline. So I know I've got all these places in my head where I know I can go. So I'm never short of a subject. So when you get like specific conditions, you could just go out and go straight there. You don't have to think about it. But then on the other hand, when I travel, it's nice to go to a place that I haven't been to. And it takes me a couple of days to get into the swing of things, but it's a great way of finding out more about a city or a place. You can just get completely immersed in it. And that's another thing I love about photography. You can really discover a place with your camera.
You mentioned loving getting down to the coast. Is there a particular spot that keeps calling you back that you just can't shoot enough? And it doesn't have to be, if it's a secret one, don't tell me that one. Tell me another.
No, not at all. Yeah, there's a couple of places nearby where I live, which literally just down the road from me. I love shooting boats on water and stuff like that. And there's an estuary, which is like about a 10-minute drive.
Yep.
And I love going there. I go back time and time again. And people say to me sometimes, why do you keep going back and shooting the same place? And it's every time I do, I come back with something different.
Yeah.
It's different conditions or different boats, or there's always something different.
Yeah. What's your most memorable experience while out shooting?
Oh, it's got to be the Aurora trips that I used to do, Northern Lights. We were in Norway at a place called Uteclave Beach, which is one of the locations over there. And we were out for about 2 or 3 hours, and we had this Aurora storm going on, and it was so bright. It was like daylight, the amount of light coming out of the sky.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful beach with rocky foreshore with loads of rock pools and things like that. And it was just amazing. That experience will stay with me forever. It's right up there.
What about horror stories?
Oh, God. Loads. Breaking cat. I remember shooting on the edge of a lake once, and I turned around to get something out of my bag, and I heard this splosh. Looked around, I thought, oh my God, the camera had gone over on the tripod, right underwater. Nearly lost my entire kit in Iceland. I put my bag on an iceberg on Diamond Beach, which is where all the icebergs wash up on the beach. Put it on a big, massive, great iceberg. And I thought, that'd be fine there. So I'm off like shooting. Yeah. And at the corner of my eye, I see this thing moving past me. And I look across, and it's this iceberg with my bag on it, literally going into the sea. Like, shit. So I was running down the beach.
You got it back?
Yeah, I did, thankfully. Yeah, just in time, because the waves there were coming in. I got soaking wet getting it back. But thankfully, I did.
It's not a great place to get wet either.
No, it's pretty cold there. That was quite memorable. There's loads. I could write a book.
Maybe you should.
Yeah.
What's the practice of photography taught you about nature?
The respect for it, definitely. Things like we've got bluebells that have come out now in local woodlands here. And it's just respecting the fact that they only come up for a certain amount of time a year, and not to go trampling through them and spoiling them for everybody else, basically.
Yeah.
And also litter. Dartmoor National Park is notorious for people just going up and setting up barbecues and stuff, and they leave stuff everywhere, and it's a real pain. And we get a heavy tourist season here, and you see it so often. People just throwing stuff away. They just got no respect.
It just blows my mind, the number of people that... I remember going to a waterfall not far from here, and it's again a fairly popular spot. It was summer, so quite a few people around and whatever. But I got down to the edge of the path where there's some sort of... They're not actual stepping stones. There's some rocks across that you can hop across the creek.
Right.
And there at the bottom of those was half a dozen of those sort of mixed alcohol cans of the pre-mixed drinks.
Yeah.
Just empties that somebody, they'd obviously sat by the thing and just chucked them over their shoulder or at their feet or whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
No, it's out of order. People like McDonald's bags and stuff, and they'll sit in the car park and they'll just literally chuck the bag out the window. And it's really, can you not just take it home and put it in your bin? I don't know.
It's actually no more inconvenience to you to take it home than it is to pull your window down and chuck it out.
Yeah, I don't get it at all.
No, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Are there any places that you've been that you've noticed, aside from Dartmoor, that have been damaged over time through over trafficking or?
Yeah. It's Iceland, for instance. When I first started going there, it was back in 2010, I think. And back then, you could literally go outside of Reykjavik, and you pretty much wouldn't see anybody. But now, the last time I went there was 2015, I think. And it's just everywhere you go. I'm guilty of it because I'm a photographer, but there's photographers everywhere. There's tourists everywhere. Yeah. You can't. There's drones flying around, and it's a nightmare. And I know guys that are still running workshops now out there, and they say it's getting nigh on impossible to actually shoot there without any disturbance with people in the shot, and people are just so focused on getting their own shot, and they'll just walk straight in front of you. You never used to get that. It was never like that.
Yeah, I don't understand people in consideration for other photographers. If somebody's there before me and I want to be standing there, I'll wait. I'm not going to set up behind them, beside them, and try and encroach on their space. A bit of patience. But
again, I think it ties in with the whole social media thing. It's like the Instagram generation. They have that shot. They stood there with their selfie sticks and pouting on the beach, and it's, hang on a minute, I'll set a shot up here. He just walked in front of me.
Yeah. Again, just human behaviour just astounds me.
Yeah, crazy.
In terms of talking a bit more about how you take your photos, how do you incorporate elements of storytelling into your photos? Is that something that you intentionally try to do, or is it something that just happens organically?
Story, I know what you mean. It's difficult with landscape photography. I have done sort of series of pictures, like collections and stuff, where the whole collection ties together on a certain place. That kind of thing was more. I was more focused on that when I was actually doing it for a living. I'd have to shoot things and build up a story. I am actually working on a project at the moment, which I haven't had much chance to get into, but I started this project with people that work with their hands, so carpenters and trades and stuff that are dying out. And it's one thing that I've been working on over the years. I haven't really done anything with it. I've got a couple of pictures out, but I've always fancied turning that into a book. There's so many trades here, like people that thatch roofs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Dying trades, basically. Focusing in on that one person and an environmental portrait of them, how they work and what they do, all the process and everything.
Yeah, I think actually with thatching, you might be onto something there, because you've actually got to grow the reeds, get them to a certain length and height and thickness for them. Then you got to harvest them, then you got to dry them out, and basically that entire process itself is fascinating. I've seen a little bit, snippets of it. My wife's from the UK, so I've been over there a few times, and it was actually a friend of mine, or friend of ours, I should say. It's not just my friend. Their brother is actually a thatcher. Just watch them doing a bit of work. They were actually thatching the roof, but they were talking a bit about what they had to do before they even got onto the roof to do any of the thatching itself. But I think that'd be.
I'm looking out the window now. We've got a thatched cottage opposite our house, a massive white cottage, and that roof it looks like it's ready for a new roof. It's quite a task, I think, to re-thatch a place.
It's not a 5-minute job.
jobs.
So what's your routine when you're out in the field? Are you just hunting around, or you've got something in mind before you go? How does it work? What are you thinking about in the field?
I said earlier about having, I've got all these locations in my head that I know where to go. So a lot of the time it's a case of just going there and I'll go straight to the subject. Sometimes I go somewhere different, and then the process is, first thing I look for is a foreground, something that actually ties this shot together. And I'll set a few shots up. I normally find when I go out and shoot, the first sort of 10, 12 pictures, they don't actually work. I'll take them, but it's a process of getting into the swing of things. And then I find the shot that I'm after. And then from then on, it's like, so I delete a lot of pictures as I go. I know a lot of people do that on the computer, but I tend to do it on the camera.
I don't delete anything.
No,
I'm terrible.
Like hundreds of thousands of pictures.
I do. I have literally some images that I know are no good and will do nothing, and I should delete them, but they're just there.
Yeah. See, I delete as I go. I'm like, I'll look back through. I'll flip through I think, no, that looks crap. Let's get rid of that. Delete. And I end up with quite a small number of pictures when I come back. It's like when I used to shoot film, I'd have to shoot like bracketed shots, like all different exposures, and I'd shoot rolls and rolls of film. But now I have got the ability to shoot the infinite pictures, but I don't. I go the other way. I get it right and as close as I can in the camera, and everything else is deleted before I get back to the computer.
Talking about when you get back, are you straight into it, or do you leave them to?
I try to, because I like to, with the processing, because I don't do that much processing, I like to remember the shot and the conditions. So if I can process it pretty much straight away, at least the raw files, get them across, then I know that's how I remembered it. Whereas if I leave it for a couple of weeks, I'm like, oh, I can't remember whether that was right or not.
No, fair enough. I know some people like to leave them for weeks, and I know I was talking to somebody the other day, and they reckon they've got shots from 3 years ago. They've still got them on cards. They haven't even taken them off.
Oh God, no, I couldn't cope with that.
I'm
the same. OCD would be like,
yeah, I'm the same. As soon as the card's home, they get backed up, because I know that's then going to get backed up to my NAS drive, and it's also going to get backed up to the cloud. So I've got 3 copies of the thing. I don't trust cards enough.
No, I immediately I download them straight away, and then I don't clear the card straight away until the raws are done and it's gone through to the TIFF stage, and then I'll delete the card, and then obviously it's all backed up.
Are you printing much work now?
No, I'm guilty of. I haven't got one picture on the wall at home of my own. I'm too self-critical.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
Yet.
Yeah, no, it's never had any pictures like that. My partner, she keeps saying to me, "Oh, we need to print this out. We need to print that." I'm like, but I should do more. Really, I should do more, because it looks great. I'll get prints done. I sell prints occasionally, and I'll get prints done for people that want them. And when I do get them printed, it's so good to see it in print. You miss that element of it.
One thing I do, even if I don't do it for a wall or for a client, I put a bunch in. I do a book, and I also do a calendar each year.
Okay.
So 12 best shots go into the calendar, and the book is sort of like maybe the top 40, maybe, if I've got that many from a year.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and then I've got them. It looks pretty schmick in a book, and it's printed. There's no words in the book. It's not.
Yeah.
It's literally a picture book. You flip through.
Oh, right.
But it's better than the old photo albums, I reckon. It's just because
you look like you've got a home office there. Is that right?
I do, yeah. I do have a printer, but it's only A4 size, so it's all right for test print. So I use that to see, have I got the image to a point where I'm happy to hand it off to a printer?
Yeah.
You know, as print and screen are very different. So I use this to make sure, okay, it's bright enough. I'm not, there's no funny black splodges, and there's no horrible white splodges in there, and I got everything the way that I want it before I then send it off to the printer. So
I use a printer locally, and another one I use is in Germany. Actually, they do like metal prints for me, like aluminium prints, and they're absolutely pure. They're brilliant. They're just like they come back, and you think, wow.
Yeah.
I often give like physical prints with an NFT. So I've done quite a few where I've sent them off to people.
Nice.
And they've got them like hanging up on the wall, and it looks great. I always think it's nice to actually NFTs are good, and it's great that they buy them. But I think it's nice to have that, to send them that physical print as well.
Oh, absolutely, definitely.
Right.
I mean, I've got a couple of metallic prints floating around. Actually, I don't know. I don't have any here in the room at the moment, but I found a place that does really nice acrylic. So they do it on metallic paper and then apply that to the back of the acrylic. So you got this clear sheen. There's no border or frame around it. So it just looks really clean. And when you're getting one that's about 1.5 meters wide, it just looks phenomenal. Nothing.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's anything better than seeing your work that big. And
no.
I've only sold a few of those.
You've inspired me to get some prints done. I think I need to invest in a better printer. But I should do it. Should do more of it, really.
What do you do when you've hit a creative block? Are you hitting those now? Were you hitting them when you were doing it professionally? And have you changed the way that you deal with it?
When I was professional wise, I didn't have time to have creative blocks. It was just like you just had to get it done.
Crack on and get it done.
Yeah, but I obviously had at the end of my sort of photographic career professionally, I did have a complete I just completely lost the plot on it. I didn't have that sort of drive to go out and shoot.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I've got to admit, with NFTs, I've been in NFTs now for about, when was I start? July 21, I started, 2021.
Yep.
And during the last couple of years, I have had times where it's a tough thing. It's despite my years of experience and stuff, and dealing with the ups and downs of it, it is tough. I read posts from other people sometimes, and you think, I can completely understand how you get so frustrated and you want to give it up. And I have had those moments, but you just got to just push through and get back to that mentality where I'm shooting because I want to indulge. And if the NFT doesn't sell, whatever, like just carry on regardless.
I stopped minting stuff back in 2021. I think November 2021 was the last time I minted something, and decided I'm just going to concentrate on the core business side of things now, because it was, to be honest, it was just getting too much of a distraction on being on social media and on Twitter, constantly trying to do Twitter spaces. I haven't been in a Twitter space now for nearly a year and a half at least.
I haven't been in one for about a year, I think now.
So I don't know, it kind of lost its sheen. I saw a lot of really strange behaviours going on as well.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say they're strange, because despite everyone saying Web 3.0 is a thing, I still think we're sitting along with Web 2.1a, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.1b,
I think we've got a long way to go. Yeah, people always talk about decentralization and
most of the platforms aren't decentralized in the first place.
No,
there's no decentralization in a lot of the marketplaces. There's no decentralization in a lot of the hosting services that are around it. And I'm just not seeing the promise that was there back in 2021, early 2021, going up real soon. And
it's gone a bit crazy. It's I think everything moves at like 1,000 miles an hour, and you just got you either try and keep up and keep changing your output. And I see some photographers, they've gone down like this AI route, and I've got nothing against AI, but
nor do I. It makes some nice art. My biggest issue with it is, whose work is it?
Exactly. Yeah, you don't know where the pictures are sourced from, and it's
not even that. If I type the words in, and I personally can't feel any ownership of it unless I then take the output and then play with it.
No,
because what I did was I typed some words, and there you go.
And as a photographer, I want to go out and
Yeah, I want to experience the world. That's why I do it.
I don't want to sit there going typing out some bloody phrase to end up with a picture and think, oh yeah, that's all right. And what's the point?
That's exactly it. Yeah. And the bit that does annoy me is the people that on social media, they're trying to pass some of their AI work that has been polished up, and potentially some of it's been mixed media. Maybe they've added some photography in there to enhance it beyond what even the AI can do. And the AI is doing some fantastic stuff from a photorealistic imagery perspective, but where they're not being honest and they're posting it in forums and putting hashtags for photo sharing accounts that are then resharing them, because they are incredibly engaging images. They look fantastic.
Yeah.
But then you go, hang on a sec, you're all about promoting photography, but you're now promoting not photography.
Yeah.
So where's your credibility?
That line is getting very fuzzy now,
and it's going to get harder and harder. I think the journalistic photography space is going to be absolutely incredible for people to understand. What's people that aren't familiar with the technology are going to be blown away by what it can do. I saw somewhere a series of images which were obviously somebody'd done a series. I don't know whether it was Midjourney or DALL-E or somewhere, and they'd done a series of the coronation after party.
Oh yeah, I saw those. Yeah, I know what you mean. Some of them are brilliant. I must admit.
They're fantastic images, and I love the humour behind them. But you could see where this is going from a journalistic perspective. If you wanted to write a narrative that said these people are doing this instead of what they're really doing.
It's what's worrying about it is that people question the authenticity of your work. If you have produced a photograph that's traditionally created, that people will say, people used to say, oh, is it Photoshop? But now it's, oh, is it AI? And it's
going to get either or both.
Yeah. I don't know.
Talking about that, what's the future of photography? Where do you see it going?
It's worrying, to be honest. I think there'll always be a place for traditional photography. I was shooting film up until recently, just purely because I just still like the process of it.
I don't.
No, I've got to the point where I think that there's so much hassle trying to get the image from film. You've got to digitize it anyway. When it's anything, what's the point?
Well, that's the thing. If you want to share it beyond your family, you've got to digitize it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And by that stage, you then use going, okay, I might as well use Photoshop on it, and then it's no longer.
I mean, I think as a medium, photography will always be there. The AI thing, it's the latest thing, and I don't know whether it'll last or whether it'll take on some of the form, but I think people like to be creative, and I might be speaking out of turn here, but I don't think you can be as creative typing in prompts than you can with a camera in your hand. That's my view.
I tend to agree with that. I get your imagination has virtually no limits, and therefore anything you think of you could generate or get the AI to generate, and I have seen some incredible images and some bizarre stuff that you go, wow, how did they even, what kind of mind comes up with that? And it's not that it's horrific or anything. It can still be a stunningly beautiful image, but you go, wow, where did you get the brain that comes up with that sort of thing? That said, I think photographically you can also get very creative and do things that there's still room to explore. There's still things that haven't been done with photography. I know a lot of photographers will say everything's been photographed. Maybe landscape photography, there's very few places now that have been left unshot. There must be some hole in the ground that nobody's gone down to with a camera maybe, but beyond that, I think overall photography, there's still plenty of space for exploration and experimentation.
I think photography, for me, I like to record reality. And I
I'm the
think
same.
in this day and age, people are so keen to escape reality, and that's where it's going at the moment. And it's all well and good. We've got beautiful things on this planet. Why not record that and
Absolutely.
as you see it, rather than trying to create something that doesn't exist?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
What about social media? Where does that play a life, or where does that play out in your photographic life?
Yeah, Twitter is. I'm put my hands up. I'm a Twitter addict. I'm always on the bloody thing, and it's social media for me. I started out. There was no social media. Christ, I didn't even have a mobile phone. We're just locked into this thing, and it's. I'm old enough and ugly enough now to rein it in a bit if I need to, but I do feel for my kids. My son's 15 and he's got YouTube and Facebook and everything, and it's just. Again, it's this lack of reality thing. You've got this whole system where they're always trying to get likes and be appreciated and all the rest of it, and you don't need that really. If it's a dangerous thing, I think, if you go down that sort of hole, if you like. But it also is a powerful tool, and if you use it, and I think if you, like I say, if you balance it, it can be quite useful.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the important thing, is getting the life skills and the resilience to be able to put it down, not look at it. I've got to say, it's really refreshing if I go somewhere and I haven't got any kind of reception. I just don't look at it for days on end, which is absolutely marvelous sometimes. Because it is, because you can concentrate on being in the present and being in the moment with whoever it is that you're there with. And I think, unfortunately, because of the global coverage of internet now, it's harder and rarer to find those places where there is no coverage, and you can actually switch things off and forget about them for a while.
So I take my son wild camping on Dartmoor quite a bit, and we go to places there where there's no signal, and it's just me and him, a stove. We walk, we kind of photograph stuff, and it's just a complete sort of distraction from the real world for 5 minutes, or the unreal world, I should say.
The altered world.
Yeah.
If you weren't a photographer, what would you be?
Good question. I've always fancied being an architect. I'm quite into architecture as well. I like shooting architecture, but again, it's quite creative, I think, being an architect. But that's probably if I tried harder at school, which I didn't. That's probably the route I would have gone down.
Yeah. What's your favourite thing about being a photographer?
Being able to record things that, like you say, it's in years to come might not be there. Trees, buildings, people. It's just that kind of historic thing that you can capture it, and you can look back on stuff as well and relive those moments. For me, that's what it's all about.
Cool. What about the worst thing?
The worst thing about being a photographer, the fact that I can't switch off. It doesn't matter where I am. I'm always like, oh, that looks good. That looks good. I can't switch.
Look at the light there.
On the bend. Yeah,
I'm a bit the same. I can be driving and it's like this. Head's on a swivel. I just saw some good light there. Where can I pull over?
Oh no! So we're driving along. I go, oh, look at that light. And my partner said, "What? What are you talking about?"
I think mine's become used to it. And I know we were up in Queensland, a place called the Sunshine Coast, which, funnily enough, for the 4 days we were there, it pretty much rained every day. But we were driving out to a place called Mullaney, there's a famous tree on a hill that overlooks the Glasshouse Mountains up there. Anyway, we were on their way there, and you drove over this causeway over this dam that's there, and I looked out and I thought, oh, that looks good. Wonder what that's going to look like at sunset. So managed to time the drive back so that we were there for sunset, and I clocked this spot to pull over, and I'm there walking down alongside the causeway with the traffic coming past, and just a bit of armco between me and the road, and trying to set the tripod up on this in amongst these reeds and everything just to catch this sunset at this particular dam, because that's how I roll it.
The things we do for photographs.
Yeah, but the wife was all about it. She was happy to tag along.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
All right. Are there any photographers out there you think I should be talking to?
Neil Burnell. He's great. What he's doing or what he's been doing for years. It's really good stuff. Very minimalist stuff sometimes. Just trying to think of Paul Moon photography. Okay. He's a lovely guy. Again, he shoots stuff that's real, and he's got a real passion for it, and that comes across, I think. So definitely those two.
Fantastic. Thank you. I got one more question for you, and for all my listeners, it's the most important one I can ask. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Definitely. I'm all for that. Yes. Yeah. I know it's wrong, but who cares?
No, it's a very divisive topic. There's a lot of people,
Definitely.
I'm a take it or leave it guy. I don't care if it's there, if it's not there.
In fact, it's one of my favorite toppings.
Really?
There you go.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me, Lee. It's been absolutely wonderful getting to know you a little bit better, and fantastic to catch up with you and finally talk. Where can people find your work?
My website's probably the best thing, which is leepengelly.com. Everything's on there. I need to do an update on that website. It's another thing I'm guilty of not getting on top of. But there's links on there for everything else as well. So all the NFT stuff. I'm not doing workshops anymore, but obviously all my latest work I'm posting up there, and the links to the social stuff there is on there as well. So it's probably the best place.
Thanks very much, Matt.
Thank you too. It's been good to talk to you.
Fantastic.
It's been fun. Sorry about the dog.
Oh no, it's all good. He's been
Hopefully still alive.
All right. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening, because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work and this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Vero, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. If you're interested in buying prints or photography gear or doing a photo workshop with me, these are also on sale on my website. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.